Thank you for clicking in too. Explore the far-reaching impacts of the choices we make, one conversation at a time. This is the Ripple Effect. And today we want to go ahead and talk to one of the builders in the local area. Hopefully this builder will be able to give us a little bit of information on the difference in wood frame versus block frame and some of the incentives the builders are having. Builders are not just building homes now, but they're actually building, small communities and also making dreams come true. The market with the interest rates and the costs is making it very hard for some people to get into a home, and builders are having exclusive rates and exclusive deals in order to get people into those homes. Today, we want to talk to Derek Brockdorff and get some information about how that is possible, what they're doing, and once again, like I said, some of those differences in between different buildings and what might be working best for you as a new buyer. All right. So with no further delay, I want to go ahead and introduce Derek and have him explain a little bit about his history and what he does and who he's working for. And if you would, please, Derek.
Great. Thanks, Eddie. My name is Derek Brockdorff. I work for Adams Homes here in Palm Coast. We sell new builds all over the city. I've been with Adams Homes about 2 years. My primary office is at 12 Limbrook Drive, our model. It's right off of Matanzas Woods Parkway. Been in the real estate game. I've been licensed for about 8 years. Primarily got licensed to help support my wife, who is an agent. She's been selling here for 22 years and found it to be a great transition into a new career for me.
Great. That's nice. But you also work with an exclusive builder in the area.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yeah. Adams Homes is the only thing I sell. I deal with buyers only. Obviously, I'm not taking any listings like a general realtor would. I can only sell Adams Homes products.
Okay. So you work from the process of they come in, they see the plans and so forth, and they build, or you're selling units that are already finished?
Both. Yeah. I'll have folks that come in. Sometimes they need to be out of their home. The majority of the deals that we're getting now are contingent upon the sale of their existing home. So some of these deals, the homes sell faster than they anticipated, and they need to find a home that's complete and ready to go and ready to move into, sometimes in less than 30 days. I just had one where the folks had to be out of their home by the 29th. We went to contract last week. So we had a 100% complete home that they liked. They liked the floor plan, and we're getting them into the home on the 3rd. So it was literally like a 2-week close. And I get others that'll come in and, hey, we're a year to a year and a half out. Don't really have a time frame. We are renting. We just renewed our lease. We're ready to go whenever. We got a great relationship with the landlord. So let's look at where you're going. Let's look at the lots that you own in Palm Coast. Let's look at units that are maybe just getting started, that are 6-7 months out.
Okay. I just had a question. Are the lots that you own, do you normally deal with large developments where you have, you're building a community, let's say with 50 to 100 homes, or do you have individual lots that say, I could come to you and say, hey, I want to live in this area. Do you have a lot in this area that I can build on? I can buy the land from you.
Yep. Both, actually. Okay. Most recently, we're finishing up sales in Sawmill Creek, which was a community. Mm-hmm. They bought a chunk of the property in there. Initially, there was 4 builders that went into that community. But right now, our bread and butter here in Palm Coast is what we refer to as scattered lots. And these are lots that we own all around the city of Palm Coast. So if I do, and I frequently do have people come into my model that will say, I want something that is 2,000 square feet on south side of town. I want something south of Route 100. I'll look at the lots that I have in those areas and find what meets their criteria the most. And there's usually a bit of compromise there. The folks that I just referenced that needed to be out of their home quickly initially wanted something south of Route 100 and wound up buying in the center of town. So there's always a little bit of compromise, but to answer your question, yes, we do both. And we're currently getting ready to start building actually in Volusia County. They're doing a community down in Oak Hill. And then there's some talk about going out towards DeLand and Deltona as well.
So, but you do large developments,
Yeah.
like 50 to 100 homes type things.
Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, and then also when somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, do you have a lot for me?" Do you have a number of plans that they can pick from, or do they have to come with their own plans, their own architect?
No, actually, they can select a lot. Since COVID, things changed. We're just starting to open up pre-sales. So with a pre-sale, say if you wanted to live down in the Z section, south side of town, I could show you the lots that we have available. You can pick which lot suits your liking, and then we'll go into our floor plans and you pick what matches closest to what your idea for your home is. But typically we don't deviate from our floor plans.
And you have a standard amount of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Last checked here in town, we're doing a dozen different floor plans ranging from 1,500 up to 3,000 square feet.
And are the finishes already, do you get choices and finishes as well?
Absolutely. Get choices and finishes, everything down to the color of the brick. We got about a dozen different brick colors, different color mortar, shingles, interior colors. The process is simplified though. Adams has done that very, very smart. They limit the amount of choices, so you don't get this massive sense of being overwhelmed of, oh my goodness, this is a whole house. What do I do with this? Mm-hmm. It's very, very structured, very compartmentalized. Usually takes folks maybe an hour to go through and select everything from flooring to cabinet color, countertops, those colors, so on and so forth.
Yeah, because I was thinking that's probably one of the bigger barriers to just purchasing a new construction is Correct. That there's thousands of decisions to be made. And as a person who's looking to buy a home, it would seem almost simpler to buy an existing home because you can see it. It's there. Mm-hmm. The rooms are certain sizes. You just decide whether or not it's something you want.
Right.
Now, when you step into a new home, all the decisions have to be made.
Correct.
The position of the house, how it's going to be laid out on the property, and also the landscaping. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you do they have input into landscaping?
We have a standard landscaping package. And this is one of those things with us being what's referred to as a spec home builder. We do what we do. And by and large, we don't deviate. If you go with a custom home builder, you're going to come in with your architect, your plans, your design, what your vision is. With us, we have control of the engineering and architectural side.
Your design build then?
Correct.
Okay.
So the buyers are coming in and basically selecting their finishes and how they want to finish off our design.
So can the buyer be as engaged or involved in the process as they need to be, or they just pretty much need to take a step back and just trust in the construction management company?
Obviously we encourage them to step back and
yeah,
trust us. But
if it's design build, that's kind of what you want.
Yeah. But we do site visits with buyers all the time. Mm-hmm. So if you're buying a home from me, obviously you're excited, you're having a home built, you want to visit the site. We'll go out there once a week on top of whatever pictures and videos I'm sending, and you can take a look at the build. I actually encourage buyers to go out and look at what we're doing as we're doing it, because I know we put up a solid home. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing for me to hide. There's nothing to sweep under a rug. If I can show folks what we do and how well we do it, mm-hmm. works out better for me in the long run, because there's less questions at their final walkthrough when the home is complete, because they've seen this thing go from a concrete slab to this beautiful new home.
Mm-hmm. Well, the reason I say that is I remember walking with a friend who was having his home built, and we started to do the framing. And one of the questions he had was, I plan on having a security system. and also I plan on doing a lot of gaming. Now, if you're going to do that, you kind of want that stuff within the walls before they close them up. And so the thought was, well, wouldn't you want to get there before the drywall goes on and just talk to your builder about that? I was wondering if Adams has that opportunity, but you kind of mentioned that. You mentioned that you do encourage buyers to come out there and walk around.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, I did have a question.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that people are coming in like short sales, basically. They have a very short window and so forth. Are those local people or are they coming from other places?
Mostly out of state.
Really? So most of them are out of state selling their house to move here.
Yeah, as far as Arizona and California. Surprisingly, I don't get much out of the Southeast. It's all Northeast corridor or very far out west, in my experience anyway. See a lot of folks from New Hampshire, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, obviously New York, New Jersey, Arizona, and California.
Are these the retiring people or these remote people, do you think?
Bit of both.
A little bit of both.
Bit of both, yeah.
Okay.
Are you seeing any first-time home buyers?
I am.
Huh.
I am. Which, the way the market is right now, I'm surprised that we're getting first-time buyers in, with the rates being as high as they are, mortgages being as high as they are. It kind of lends to what we're doing on the financial side to help as well. You know, as we've got some programs with interest rates and stuff like that that'll help buyers that have a little bit less cash in their monthly budget to be able to afford a home.
I didn't want to. That's a good segue into the financial aspect of it.
Yeah, I want to cover that as well, but I was going to get to that a little bit later. Okay. But since we're already there, we'll go ahead and go over that. I know a lot of buyers are doing incentive programs. They're doing things with lenders, specific lenders, to go ahead and get a better rate or some kind of other incentives. So what exactly is Adams doing? And can you explain some of those different rates and so forth that you're talking about?
Sure.
And throw into that, what would be the incentive? Let's say I'm looking to buy a home. What would be more of an incentive for me to buy a new home as opposed to an existing home? Because of the creative financing that Adams can offer as a new construction.
So that one I can field without even going into the financing side. Existing homes and new homes are so close in average pricing, it almost doesn't make sense to buy an existing home right now. I think there's less than a $10,000 difference in average median price right now between existing homes and new builds in the state of Florida. So it comes down to, am I going to purchase a home that somebody's been in for 10 years, 15 years, that may need a roof? It may need updating, definitely going to need new flooring. Or am I going to buy something brand new, whether I get to choose my finishes or not? If it's something I can just step into that is new roof, new AC, and has a warranty. For a lot of folks, it's a no-brainer.
And you're saying this because normally the cost of new construction is a little higher than existing.
Traditionally.
Okay.
Traditionally, yes. And that was there's always benefits to buying existing. I'm not saying that folks are not being intelligent when they buy existing homes, because there's things that I can't provide. If you want to move into a home that's got a pool that you can jump into on your closing day, I can't provide that for you. So there's pluses and minuses. And then you have the location. You know, we're not always where folks want to be. There's so many different factors, but by and large, when I'm asked that question, why should I buy a new home over an existing? The pricing is so close that it makes more sense to go with something that's brand new and has a warranty. Now, as far as the financing side goes, we typically, on homes that have been on the market for quite a while, we will partner up with one of our lenders. We work with 4 different lenders. We'll partner up with one of our lenders and do forward commitments. Basically, the forward commitment is our company will buy fixed mortgage rates from that lender. to the tune of, I think this last round, Adams invested several $1 million in doing fixed mortgage rates on this forward commitment. It allows us to advertise a fixed interest rate for 30 years on a home. Current interest rates are sitting at about 6.5%. Most recently, we were offering 3.99% fixed rate 30 years. And it's a win for both sides with a forward commitment. Obviously, it generates a lot of traffic for us because people see 3.99%, or in my marketing, if I advertise, hey, ask me about 3.99% fixed rate financing. And it's been everywhere from 3.99 to 5.99 when the rates were up over 7%. We can kind of set it where we want. So it brings folks to me and starts the conversation. A lot of folks don't know what a forward commitment is. So we're basically buying down your interest rate for you. The company, like I said, gets with the mortgage company or the lender, and we're doing a buy down. It's beneficial for us if I have a property that's not moving. Because like I said, we largely do this on homes that are 100% complete, need to go, or if we want to move a certain number of homes very quickly. So if I have a home, rather than taking a price reduction, which is not favorable for us in any way, shape, or form, we can offer an interest rate, which costs us less money than a price reduction typically, and helps out buyers because it's going to reduce their monthly payment. So example, if I've got a home that is $500,000, for whatever reason, we set it at $500,000 and it's just not selling, just not moving. If we do a $75,000 price reduction and bring it down to $425,000 with a 10% down payment, your loan amount is going to be $385 and change, maybe $385 too. Your monthly principal and interest, along with PMI, your mortgage insurance, is probably going to be about $2,600 and change. Now, conversely, if I take that same property and we do a forward commitment on it, let's say its sample interest rate is 7% with that first deal. So if we do a forward commitment, offer a 5% flat rate, exact same home, that forward commitment is going to cost us probably between $25,000 and $28,000. So we'll say $27,000 it'll cost us. We're taking less of a hit rather than coming down $75,000. We're investing $27,000. The consumer is now on a $450,000 loan. Is their payment is going on a same situation, 10% down. Their payment is going to be a little over $100, maybe $125 a month less. So we're talking about a difference between $2,600 and change and $2,500 and change. We're still retaining the value in our home, and the consumer is getting a better mortgage payment. So it's a really attractive option for both parties and to set people up for success so they're not going to wind up being underwater in 2 years and go into foreclosure on their home because they got into a home that they just can't afford.
And that buy down value, whatever, 28,000, it's not somehow shifted back to the buyer. It's just it's something you'll take as opposed to losing the 75,000.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Instead of taking a hit where we're definitely, that money is gone, we can invest some money into selling the property. Whereas I may not get the same response if I just lowered the price by $27,000, but I can take a $27,000 hit doing this forward commitment and wind up with a favorable result for both the company and for the consumer.
So it's still listed at $500,000, but that lower, like you said, 3.99 or 4.99 gets the buyer in the door, and you can explain it to them to where it's actually a lower mortgage payment for them.
Correct.
This helps with the the debt to income ratio that most people have to fall into.
Exactly.
So you're basically getting the monthly cost down so that they can actually get into the house. Because like what you said there, you could have maybe lowered the house payment, cost of the house, but with the fact that they can't make the debt to income ratio, they still can't qualify.
Correct.
But if you can get them to qualify, you can sell the house. Additionally, you're taking a hit, but you're not taking as much a hit. So that means you're in business longer. So your business is not going to go out of business, and that you can meet your warranties and everything else that comes with that as a business and a future builder as well. We need builders to be in the market. So we need to look at this as well. I know as a customer, we're only thinking about our side.
Sure.
But on both sides, there are things we got to consider as well.
Are there any special deals for vets?
The lenders usually take care of that side, whether it is Hometown Heroes, which is any first responders. And I think they've opened that up to educators and healthcare professionals now as well.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the local lenders have programs designed around vets and helping vets get into homes and navigating the VA loan process.
Okay. So if they're using one of your lenders,
mm-hmm.
they would have to talk with them outside of the loan deal that you're doing with them.
Sure.
That's how they would handle it as a vet.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're basically like a conduit between the lender and the buyer, because obviously buyers aren't walking into the lender's office saying, hey, I want to go look at this home in Palm Coast. So we'll connect the two. Like I said before, we work with 4 different lenders, and a lot of times it comes down to, because all 4 of our lenders are fantastic, it comes down to who the customer jives with best, where they feel a connection, because it is a very personal process to go through the home loan process. It's an emotional process. It's people are digging around in your finances. There's no secrets there. Mm-hmm. So you have to have a good, solid connection with your lender to really feel comfortable during the process. And I think that for a lot of folks, that's something they miss because they feel like they're locked into just talking into somebody from their bank, or they won't shop around. The lenders are like box stores. Each big box store falls in that category, but by and large, they sell different stuff. Lenders are no different. They all have different programs, and you may find the one that has a program that's perfect for you. So I always encourage people to talk to multiple lenders.
Do they have to go with any of your lenders? If they, let's say, nope. Okay.
No, there's perks for using one of our lenders. We'll pay the majority of your closing costs if you use one of our lenders. Typically, the bulk of what we do not pay is going to be your prepaids, which is your taxes and insurance. But then we have incentives to get around that as well. So you can wind up walking into a home with literally just the money for your deposit or your down payment, and eliminate 100% of the closing costs.
How does Adams handle the fee for the purchasing broker?
Well, that's been a hot topic lately. We have, and to my knowledge, always will pay 3% to sellers agents. It's different paperwork now with the NAR settlement that we just went through. Buyers agents are now having to negotiate their worth to their customers beforehand. Before they ever go into a house, they're having to have a conversation that says, hey, look, my professional fee is 3% of the sales price. If the seller is not willing or is not advertising or is not paying that 3%, are you willing to pay me the difference? So this is another thing that's good for builders, because by and large, builders pay better than existing homes. Pretty much always have. There's builders out there that'll pay 4 and 5% to buyers agents, which it's huge. Whereas with a common general real estate transaction over the past couple of years, it's been about 2.5% has been average. So yeah, it definitely leans things in our favor to be able to talk to agents face to face and say, hey, look, we're still paying 3%. And then from what their split is with their broker is on them. I don't have anything to do with that.
Right. So if I'm a buyer
Mhm.
and I'm buying one of your homes, it's an incentive for me because I know that that fee that that 3% I would pay to my broker is going to be picked up by
Sure.
Adams.
And intelligent buyers that do their research absolutely are going to think about that. If they have a great realtor and their realtor says, hey, look, I'm worth this 3%. Here's what I'm going to do for you. And they agree to it. It's of course it's going to be in the back of their mind. Wow, if I go look at this pre-existing home and the seller's only offering 1.5% and we love the home, how am I going to come up with this other 1.5% to cover? So if you do your research, builders pay well and you know you're going to be covered. It's just a matter of finding what you like, where you like with a particular builder. But yeah.
If a builder, let's say Adam, was only offering 2.5%, and the buyer's broker said, well, I'm worth 3%, that 0.5%, that's something that the buyer would have to pick up.
100%.
Okay.
Yep.
It wouldn't be like a negotiation with the builder. Hey guys, we're off 0.5% here.
Not to say that it can't be negotiated. By and large, we're pretty much fixed on what we do as far as the pay side goes. I think that's more of a thing with the general real estate where they can negotiate it into the contract and say, hey, if you give me a seller concession of $8,000 to help pay for my realtor's 3%, we got a deal. With us, it's more of, hey, look, this is what we got. This is where we are. By law, as a seller, we can only give 6% of the sales price, a maximum of 6% of the sales price in seller concessions. And with a lot of the promotions that we do, we're chewing up a large part of that already with things like flex cash and appliances and so forth. So we don't have a lot of wiggle room to negotiate with commission.
Can you explain flex cash?
Yeah. So flex cash, it's something that's almost a staple with most of the builders. It is not an envelope of cash per se that I would hand to a buyer and say, you can do whatever you want with this. It's a credit that we are offering to buyers to help offset whichever area of cost is their biggest concern. For instance, the taxes and insurance, the prepaids at closing is one of the things that we don't cover. And that's commonly going to be between $5,000 and $7,000 on average. If we are offering $10,000 in flex cash on a sale, you can take $6,000 out of that 10, apply it towards your prepaids. So now in essence, the only cost out of pocket you're going to have is the deposit on your loan, whether it's, 3.5, 10 or 20%, whatever kind of loan you got. And you can take the balance of that and apply it towards a rate buy down, lowering the price of the home. You can kind of split it up. And that flex cash, like I said, with us has been kind of a staple. Since I've been with Adams, it's been as little as $5,000 and as much as $20,000.
And who makes that determination whether it's 5 or 20?
A regional manager. They will ballpark figures with our sales manager and the general manager, and they all kind of come up with a plan of action. Right now, I've got homes here in town that have $20,000 worth of flex cash. And it's the words up to are very important to us. So we'll advertise up to 20,000 in flex cash because there's a number that we can't go below on the price of the home.
Is flex cash something unique to Adams, or
No.
is like Pulte and the Horners and the Lennars offering these teams?
Yeah, commonly. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. With us, it seems to be more of a staple promotion. Um, Everybody likes credits and free money. Um, the difficulty with it sometimes is trying to explain to people that, hey, this is not like, oh, can I buy a refrigerator with that? Not really. It's more of a credit to help you get in the house and offset some of your cost. So,
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So you just talked about a refrigerator that goes into customization of the home
Mhm.
and choosing your flooring, your different other things as far as appliances as well. What kind of options do they have for that? Is there anything to offset that, or that's just going to tack up the price?
it's going to tack up the price for sure. And by and large, folks will take into account the amount of flex cash they have to play with, and that can offset the cost of doing different flooring, um, doing tile, granite in the kitchen, different stuff. Some of them are mindful of it when they're picking out options. Um, Most cases, it's champagne taste on a beer budget. And the design process is fun when folks are getting to pick out their finishes in their home. It's a lot of fun because people get fired up and they have so much fun with it. So as we get into it and they're picking all these options, and I say, okay, this is now changing the price of the home by $33,000. Oh, so I can take that 15,000 in flex cash, and we've now knocked that down to 18,000. Out of that 18,000, what can I eliminate to keep this closer to my budget?
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So they just have to plan accordingly, we'll say.
Yeah, and nobody ever does. Nobody ever does. They have fun with it, and because it is fun, you get excited.
Yeah, you get to tailor your house to
Yeah.
something you really want. And that's a good thing. So this also brings in the idea here is what was I gonna think? How long does it take the process? Is it still like 6 to 12 months, or is it shorter than that? What are we talking about?
On average, with us, 5 to 6 months from slab. Our production team has been killing it lately. The weather has been favorable. It hasn't been super wet, except for just recently, which plays a huge factor in what we do. But on average, I typically quote people 6 months from slab. That gives me a cushion. I never, ever like to promise a completion date in
Right.
any way, shape, or form. I live by under promise and over deliver. So if the home gets done early, 9 times out of 10, I'm a hero. But if it is not complete and I've given folks a completion date, I'm public enemy number one now.
Yeah, there's things you can't really control, the permitting, the weather, and everything
Yes.
else. But to make this kind of quota or time frame, you must have a consistent labor force that works just for you.
Fortunately, obviously, during COVID, labor was scarce, materials were scarce. Fortunately, lately, we've hit some really good subcontractors that actually show up and do the jobs they're supposed to do, mostly in an efficient manner. Um, Really, our superintendents are the ones that are driving that bus. We have outstanding superintendents that stay on top of all the subcontractors, making sure they're where they say they're going to be. Um, when you get a reputation for having superintendents that are on top of things, you're going to wind up getting subcontractors that are doing the work. Whereas if you get a super that's a little loosey goosey, maybe doesn't go to visit the job sites like he should, cat's away, the mice are going to play. And it's no different with subcontractors.
Are superintendents Adams employees?
They are.
Subcontractors are not.
Correct.
Okay, so you could have a subcontractor working on 4 different projects in different areas of the of Palm Coast.
Correct.
They're just large enough to do that. Let's say you have a excavation company. They could be doing multiple projects, but the superintendent is your employee.
Sure. Yep.
Okay. Are materials driving projects anymore? I remember, I think it was a while back. There was that
2021.
No, I'm thinking more of that drywall thing probably about a decade ago, where
Oh,
I think it was Chinese
Yeah, the
drywall,
Chinese drywall.
and that caused a whole lot of problems. And
Yes.
is there any issue with drywall supply anymore?
No. Really, since COVID, just after COVID, believe it or not, the hardest thing to get was windows. But now, not so much. I never hear the supers talk about a shortage on materials or delays in getting materials.
No framing issues?
No, the price of lumber goes up and down like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
I still haven't. I'm almost afraid to dip my toe into that pond and figure out why those numbers fluctuate the way they do. I think right now we're at about just a tick over $500 per 1,000 board feet on lumber, which is down a bit.
Still a little high though.
It's definitely
At
high.
least 50% over what it used to be at
My
one point.
goodness, yes. And being a frame builder, obviously that affects what we do in a major way. But
Cheaper
at
than
least
concrete.
it is. And at least we have the supplies to build the homes. So
I kind of want to geek out on a little bit of these construction material. I was walking through just a home that's being built in our area, and so I can walk up when I walk up and down the block. You can see it progressing from the slab to the stick build. And what I noticed is that it's not being built with, normally it doesn't, with treated lumber, but the first floor 2x4x8 has green material up to about 3 feet. What is that?
that is for termites. It's called boracare. I think the actual chemical is called boracite. And any frame builder worth their salt is always going to treat the bottom 2.5 or 3 feet of the framework with boracite. It's part of putting a termite bond on your home. So when you see that turquoise color on the framework, it's literally just pest prevention.
Also, are these slabs on footers, or because of the sand here in Florida, you can just put a slab down? You don't have to put any footers or any CA6 or anything underneath that.
It goes right down. To my knowledge, we're not. And I'm not, that's one of the things I'm not super swift with the construction.
Right.
But I don't believe that we're doing anything other than prepping the surface, getting it boarded out, and then they'll come in and pour the slab.
Okay. And also, one of the, I didn't want to steal your thunder there. I'm seeing homes that half of them, like they'll either be totally, what's the material? Cinder block. They'll be cinder block, or they'll be stick build, or they'll put cinder block on the first floor and stick on the top. Or this is interesting, they'll put like the southeast corner will be all cinder block, but then the rest of the house will be stick. And I was wondering, why would they change it up like that?
And you're correct. For the most part, if it is a 2-floor home, second floor is mostly going to be frame. There's some builders that'll do concrete block on the second floor. I would have to imagine that there's a bit more engineering that goes into those homes to be able to support the weight on the second floor of the block. As far as doing one side with block and the other in frame, I haven't seen that before.
Are most of your homes first floor block, or just kind of depends on the area?
We're solely wood frame, but we do have a full brick exterior. So we kind of get the benefits of both worlds between block and wood frame homes.
No stucco on the outside?
No stucco.
No siding?
Nope. Well, some of the models on the gables on the roof have vinyl siding. It depends on the elevation of the home.
Two-story.
2-story home, we do have one 2-story plan that has vinyl siding on pretty much the second floor. So
that's more like traditional Midwest construction.
Correct.
Outside brick, inside frame with bad insulation and Tyvek on the outside and drywall on the inside.
Yep. Absolutely.
So if I'm buying a home from Adams, I'm getting most likely a brick home.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for stucco, I probably should go somewhere else.
In this area, that's all we do is brick. Okay. There's other divisions of Adams that do frame homes without the brick exterior, which obviously is at a lower price point. But I think altogether we've got 28 divisions over 7 states that we build in. And we're one of the few that's still doing all brick.
Is there an advantage in this climate for brick?
The insulation is awesome because we get the insulation benefits of the frame home is, we're using roughly a 10-inch thick roll insulation in the framework. With a block home, you're going to get maybe a 1/2 inch of insulation. So between having that roll insulation in the walls and then the brick on top of that on the outside, you get a home that is really, really well insulated, not just with hot and cold, but with sound as well, ambient sound outside. If we get a home site that's maybe not in a prime location, a block off of 95 or by US 1, somewhere where there's a lot of traffic, trucks that make a lot of noise, you're not going to notice it inside the home. My model, for instance, backs up to Matanzas Woods Parkway. And one of the things that I talk to folks about all the time is the insulation. I say, if you can put your back, because the back of the house is windows and a big glass door. If you can put your back to those windows and just raise your hand when a car goes by, they can't do it. There's traffic going by, and then I'll open up the door and you can hear all the traffic noise. So we get the structural integrity of a block home from the brick on the outside without the need to repaint and repair your stucco every 5 or 7 years. And then we get the insulation benefits of the frame home.
Now, just for people who are listening, when you have a block home, the block is like 8 inches. And on the inside, it's just a furring strip, a piece of wood that you put down. So you don't have any room for a big 8-inch piece of bad insulation.
Correct.
And so, because you can't secure it into the block. So
Correct.
the best they can do is put that foil over, and that's your insulation on the inside.
Yeah.
Right. I get it. It's much more advantageous to have bad insulation. It's just a superior way to insulate your home.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So you got about roughly 13 inches of insulation between the brick and then the bat and then the wood and everything else. Yeah, but they have downsides to wood framing as well, as far as, like you said, you have to treat it with the termite protection and so forth. That simple couple inches of treatment, that covers the whole wood. There's less chance of the termite getting in there.
Well, I'll start by saying that when it comes to pest control, block homes are just as susceptible because the trusses on a block home are made out of wood, just like a frame home. So, and believe it or not, most commonly the termites are going to start up in your attic and in your trusses before they're coming up out of the ground. Fortunately for us in this area, we're dealing mostly with subterranean termites. And I'm going to geek out on the bugs a little bit because I paid attention in my wood destroying organism class when I got my license. So Formosan termites are the bad guys. Those are the ones that you're going to see houses that are needing to be tented. You'll commonly find those by the time you realize they're in your home. You're going to open up your kitchen cabinet if you have hardwood cabinets and see channels dug out. They are extremely difficult to get rid of. They happen in block homes just as much as frame homes. And by the time you detect them, they've already done a ton of damage. Now, the good news is for us, they're not really indigenous to the United States. They're coming in on container ships. So you're going to find those more in port cities, Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami. We're in a little pocket here to where we're seeing, if you do see termites, it's going to be a subterranean termite, which is super common, very easy to treat, very easy to get rid of. Being a frame home builder, obviously, this is a question that comes up a lot. I field this question just about every day. Termites. It's very much akin to people worrying about alligators and sharks when they come to Florida. You hear nightmare stories about critters in Florida. So with the termite situation, we take an extra step. Yes, we put a termite bond on all of our homes. We also have on all of our builds an in-wall pest control system. So what they do, we have a company called TAX that we work with. They plumb very small perforated lines. These lines are probably less than a quarter inch, teeny tiny perforations. They run them through the framework in all the wet areas of the interior of the home. And then before the brick goes on the exterior. So we've got the frame, the board, and the Tyvek wrap around the outside. They will run these lines all the way around the perimeter of the home as well.
On the outside of the Tyvek?
On the outside of the Tyvek. And then the brick goes on. So pest control technician, there's a panel on any Adams home you see around town. There's going to be a brown egg-shaped box on the side of the home. Pest control technician can access that system from that panel. Chemical goes into the walls and around the perimeter. So
wait, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yeah. Are you saying it sprays out of
a tiny plastic perforated line?
Okay, and it sprays up and down it, and that it's in between the Tyvek and that little tiny inch space between the brick.
Correct. And on the interior walls in wet areas like your kitchen, bathrooms, any place you're gonna have a more of a chance to see critters in your home.
Wow.
So effectively, because obviously in living in Florida, you have to have some sort of pest control, unless you enjoy stomping on bugs every day. What this does is it gives your buyers the opportunity to not worry about if they have kids, grandkids, or pets. You're never going to have some sort of pest control chemical in your living areas, on your baseboards, around your windows, whatever. This takes care of it in the walls. So with a combination of those two things, we've effectively eliminated any cause for alarm for any sort of crazy infestation. Now, things happen. Nothing is 100% when it comes to pest control in Florida, but we do a pretty good job of mitigating any type of termite issues just right off the break. We nip it in the bud.
So with this,
I want to geek out one more time.
Yeah.
But geek out. Romex and PVC versus copper and conduit. Is that just Florida?
By and large.
Because it seems like a really much easier way to build a home.
Yeah.
If you're not bending conduit and you're not sweating copper,
Yep.
You're just running that Romex,
yeah,
and you're putting that blue material around
Yep.
the PVC. I would also think that if there's any problems in the home, a leak, it's much easier to fix those things.
Way easier to deal with. And also you're not dealing with as much of a skilled labor. Not to say that doing the plumbing work is not a skilled labor, but there's an art, and there's folks that can sweat copper pipe, and there's folks that can't. Whereas just
I tried it, and it's not easy.
I'm with you.
I try to keep it. It never really goes around for me. It stops halfway around.
Never works the way you want it to.
Right.
Whereas with PEX or any kind of PVC pipe, anybody can smear glue around the pipe and slap two pieces together.
And if you got to fix it, you can just get a Sawzall, chop the part out you don't need, and get the little connectors and get the blue goop and put it on there.
Like it never happened.
DIY.
Yep.
That's what I say. All right. So it's mostly, I would think that the copper, I remember talking to Colleen about the idea that you're going to have to replace your outside compressor every 7 years, just because of the moisture in the air.
Mm-hmm.
But on the inside, I would think that moisture makes its way on the inside and can corrode the copper on the inside if you're running copper plumbing. So, that PVC seems like the best way to go down in this climate.
I think it works out best for everybody down here.
Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry, Eddie.
Yeah, what I wanted to say about that with going back to the pest control and so forth. So this is most likely a very specific company that can do this, right? Because you must meet a special chemical and so forth.
Correct.
So it's an advantage to that, and that you don't have to have anyone coming in your house and so forth. But you're also going to be probably limited to who can actually do the service for you. Is that not correct?
Correct. Okay. Home Team is the pest control company that does all of our TAX units.
Is there any other technology or modern amenities that your Adams offers that maybe someone else doesn't, or that's just common now?
Honestly, we are kind of asleep behind the wheel on the smart home stuff. I don't want to say we're keeping a more traditional approach so much as we're kind of locking ourselves in the Stone Age. We just haven't stepped into that arena yet. Like I said before, we do what we do really well, and we kind of stay in our lane. And I don't know whether part of that is the executives in the company are a bit apprehensive about taking that step and branching off and doing the smart home thing, or they are anticipating the problems that can create. Because obviously with us, with the amount of homes that we put up, it opens the door. You have to have a seriously fast learning curve, or you're going to wind up creating a lot of problems for yourself if things are not executed properly. So we haven't really stepped into the technology side of things so much.
And that brings up a good topic. I just did a basic research on how many homes that you guys do on an annual basis, and it comes out to like 2,900. Now that could be wrong. That was a quick Google search.
Mhm.
Now I compared that to something like the Horton does. They do about 85,000 throughout the country. You guys are mostly in the southern states and in California. I mean, in Florida.
Mhm.
And then you get down to the Lerners and the Pulte's. They're still up in those 60 to 70,000. Because you guys are putting up much less. Do you offer something with respect to customization that you're not going to get from the? How do you differentiate yourself from the Hortons and the Lerners as someone who does 3,000 homes in a year?
Build quality.
What about finish quality?
Finishes for sure. There's a lot of things. D.R. Horton does some things very well. There's a lot of things that, my personal opinion, whether I've worked for a builder or not, that I don't care for. Stud spacing on interior walls. They're using a 20-inch on center. Now,
as opposed to
16, which is any frame homes since the beginning of frame homes, studs are 16 inches on center. So that dollar saving mentality to where you may be compromising the structural integrity of a wall in a home speaks volumes. We don't compromise our build quality so we can put up more units and grab more land and build more stuff. I think the common sentiment, at least the folks that I've talked to in the company, is we're going to build the homes the way we know how to build homes in the time frame that we're comfortable with. And this in turn perpetuates our business because we retain a really good reputation locally among consumers. Among other builders, it doesn't really matter. I've got friends that work for Holiday. I've got friends that work for Seagate. I've got friends that work for D.R. Horton that are doing home sales. And we all talk about, the positives and the negatives of working for each builder. But what really matters at the end of the day is the public perception of your build. And if you were to talk to 25 people that walk down the sidewalk out here and ask them what their opinion of Adams Homes, as opposed to, say, a D.R. Horton, the results are usually pretty consistent. You just don't hear a lot of folks saying my Adams home fell apart. Not that D.R. Hortons do or anybody else. I don't ever really want to talk smack about any of the other builders, but to answer your question, just build quality by and large.
One of the things that probably works into that is you get the home, you're in the home, it's 6 months down the road. I tried to get a hold of Adams because I am having a crack in my drywall here, as opposed to how quickly do they respond? As opposed to, and this is rhetorical, how quickly does Horton respond? And I'm not trashing anybody.
Right.
If you have a large company putting up 85,000 homes nationally, as opposed to someone who's putting up 3,000 homes, in the southern states, I would
Right.
think you'd have more of a better response and service from somebody like an Adams than you would from Horton. I don't know if that's true. It just seems to,
Yeah.
it seems to be across all different industries.
The logic is there.
Yeah.
The bigger the company, the harder it is to actually talk to a human that'll help you.
Do people have access? Let's say within the first couple of years of buying an Adams home, if there's an issue, do they have access to Adams to work it out with either the superintendent, have somebody come out? How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. Largely, as a sales associate, I get contacted first if there's something wrong. We do have a warranty department. Our warranty department is one person in our office in Daytona. Like I said, we are very much still a smaller family-owned business. We have a larger corporate feel, and we've put up probably 50,000 homes since 91. But I will field calls 9 times out of 10. Hey, Derek, I noticed a crack in my garage floor, or this piece of trim is loose in the kitchen. What do I do? Okay, well, here's the number to the office, and here's Michelle is our warranty coordinator. Just give her a ring. She will talk to you about what the issue is, and we will have somebody out there shortly. And usually the turnaround, it's largely dependent on when our subcontractors can get out there to look at it. But usually the turnaround is 24 to 48 hours before we're out there fixing whatever the issue is.
What type of warranties do you offer in your home?
1 year basic warranty appliances, 2 years systems, which is going to be your electric, plumbing, HVAC, and a 10-year structural warranty.
So you get the standard warranties, but you said that this is also dependent on your subcontractors that actually did the work, coordinating with them to get them to come out there.
Yeah, and it's not always the same subcontractor that does the work. So if we have an electrical issue, they may not call our electrician subcontractor. They may call another company that will do electrical repair. So we're not just limited to those subcontractors. Obviously, we'd like for it to work out that way, just because we can hold people responsible for their quality of work. But largely, it's in the interest of us and the benefit of our buyers. If we have to get this taken care of now. Usually by the time we get a call, if we get a call, it's enough of a nuisance to where somebody's going to pick up the phone. We're not talking about little things. It's, hey, the electric in the left side of my house isn't working, and I don't see anything flipped on a breaker panel. That's important. This is not something that I want to try and track down the original sub and wait until they have availability. I'm going to get the first person that's available that we do business with out there to fix and remedy the problem.
Okay, that makes sense. We talked about a little bit, you were just talking about the customer satisfaction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we've seen in the last, since COVID especially, we've seen a lot more complaining online through these different like Google reviews and different reviews. And I've seen it consistently with a lot of home builders in general, but Adams has also got quite a few of those. I know my father just built a house. He had quite a few problems with that. I know some of that was labor shortage and material issues. And so houses had, they didn't follow their path of getting there. Mm-hmm. Can you go into that and explain some of that on your side?
Sure thing. You're always going to have keyboard warriors that, given the opportunity, will smile at you when they're in your model center, and then we'll go home and type up a Google review about everything that was wrong with everything ever in the history of building a home. It's just part of business, part of any business. Like I said, my background was largely in the restaurant business. So I'm intimately familiar with people getting online and having issues, and you handle it with the same decorum. Obviously, if I am able to, if it's somebody that I have had a transaction with, I'm going to reach out and figure out exactly what was wrong, what I can do if it was something on my end to do differently with another buyer. If it's a structural issue or a construction issue, I'm going to get as much information as I can, and I'm going to bring it to our production manager or the supers or both. But the internet reviews is a tough thing. It's almost like you have to focus on volume, because there's always going to be a third at least that are just going to slam you no matter what. No matter what.
You think a third? That's kind of high. I would think it would be more like 10% or something, 15%.
I think you have more faith in humanity than I do.
Wow.
And it may be a bit high, but you're always going to have people that are just unhappy people. They're typically not going to be happy, whether it's a home they bought, if it's a car they bought from a car dealership, if it's the meal they got even from McDonald's or Wendy's or whatever fast food joint they go to. There's just bitter people out there.
They got more time than me.
Yeah.
I know. I don't have time to write a review. If
Right.
I have to write a review, I must be really, really upset because I don't have time for that.
I'm the exact same way. And I think the difference is there are not a lot of folks that are as comfortable having an uncomfortable conversation face to face, particularly post COVID. I think when COVID came through, just from a societal standpoint, we lost the ability to communicate face to face, and it changed the way people think. They're very, very fast to jump on a keyboard and slam something online. Whereas if if I had an issue with something you did, I'm more apt to talk to you about it. Just say, hey, you know what, I wasn't real happy with this. Maybe next time or with your next buyer, you can try this approach because this rubbed me the wrong way. It doesn't come from a malicious point. It's a building and growing kind of thing. But unfortunately, not everybody thinks that way. So it's more and more difficult to attain a really positive internet presence. That being said, I do encourage people to look online. Everybody's got their faults. When they look up Adams Homes and they look for reviews, I tell them to look specifically for this area. Because like I said, we've got 28 different divisions. Particularly in Florida, we got a ton of different divisions and different builds. We're one of the few that's still doing brick homes. So I encourage people to go look for reviews on Adams Homes in Flagler and Volusia counties, or go to your favorite social media platform. And I had a buyer recently do this. Hey, we're under contract. Went to a Palm Coast friends and neighbors Facebook group. Hey, we're under contract with Adams Homes. What am I getting myself into? And my initial thought was, this is probably going to get pretty spicy. So I had one of our sales agents called me. She's a social media queen in the company, called me and said, oh, you need to jump on this post right away. Nope. I'm going to let it play out. I was blown away by the amount of support that we got as a builder. Hey, my folks have had an Adams home for 20 years. They absolutely love it. No issues. Hey, I bought mine 2 years ago. No issues. Hey, we've been in ours 7 years. 0 issues. We're in a rental that's an Adams home. We never have any issues. It was awesome. And it was hundreds and hundreds of people. Now, again, you have the other side. There were several posts that would just say things like, run away. But there was no follow-up. Somebody actually wrote, why? And there was no response. So that's textbook, just bitter internet troll. But yeah, it's a big thing. And I feel really good about what we do. So I don't fear the bad reviews. We are human beings building products made out of organic materials. It can't always be 1,000% perfect.
If I were to go online and to search for any new developments within the Flagler County by Adams, what would I find?
New developments?
Yeah, like developments that have many homes in it, as opposed to just selling a lot. Are they doing anything right now in Flagler County?
Nope. Like I said, we're wrapping up in Sawmill Creek. I don't believe.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Sawmill Creek. How many homes is that?
Sawmill Creek Phase 1, I think, was maybe 300 homes. And then you have Sawmill Branch now is Phase 2, and there's over 700 homes in Sawmill Branch, but we're not building in Sawmill Branch. Sawmill Creek was initially 4 builders. It was us, D.R. Horton, Holiday, and Miranda. So D.R. Horton and Sawmill was Phase 1 of 7 that are planned for that area. D.R. Horton wound up buying the remaining 6 phases of Sawmill Creek at Palm Coast Park. So now Phase 2 is underway, and it's all D.R. Horton stuff. So as far as communities go, no, we have nothing planned in Palm Coast that I'm aware of in the immediate future. The only ones that are on my radar are going to be in Volusia County.
You know, and one thing that we hadn't talked about that maybe some of the viewers are interested in, when you get into a larger community like that, HOAs and HOA management companies, the fees have been going up for the HOA management companies significantly. Can you speak to that just a little bit?
Sure. With the communities, obviously you're going to have an HOA. be good, bad, or indifferent. They're there. And what a lot of folks don't consider when they're buying in a community is CDD fees, Community Development District. So it's my understanding that a CDD fee is essentially the developer of the land is passing on the cost of putting in infrastructure to the consumer. And this is paid off. It's basically added to your property taxes as a non-ad valorem tax. So it's an annual assessment, just like an HOA. I know in Sawmill Creek, the HOA was relatively inexpensive. It's $391 a year, but the CDD fees were just a tick over $1,700 a year. And you know, as a
wait a second, stop here for a second. Are you saying that the cost of the developer to go in there, put in the sewer lines, put in all the drainage underneath the roads, pretty much bring it up, excavate it and do all the site utilities, they're building that into that's something different than the cost of buying the home?
Correct.
That's the CDD?
Yeah.
And that was $1,700 per home buyer.
Correct. Per year.
On top of the HOA fee.
Correct.
Why didn't they just build that into the cost of the home?
Those things are above my pay grade.
Okay. All right. So go ahead. Finish. I'm sorry.
But, the CDD is what paid for the toll bridge here in Palm Coast. If you have a bridge card to get over the bridge and not pay the full $3, it says DCDD on that card. That's Dunes Community Development District. So all that money goes into the Hammock Dunes CDD. That bridge was paid for, I think, in 2007 or 2008. They had completed the cost that it took to build the bridge. The bridge went up in 88, I think. And they had generated enough revenue off the tolls to pay for the construction. So for almost 20 years now, 17, 18 years, the Hammock Dunes CDD has been raking in all the profit off of those tolls. And we're talking millions of dollars a year. So things like that, I don't understand. But with the HOA stuff, the management companies are important for sure. Every HOA is different. You're going to have communities in Palm Coast that have super duper militant HOAs that want you outside cutting your grass with a pair of scissors. And you have HOAs that are a little bit more lax, that are going to be in place more so to make sure you don't have neighbors that have a broken down Gilligan's Island boat in their front yard. To that effect, I would say just do your research, talk to neighbors that live in the neighborhood, ask them what their experience with the HOA has been, how they feel about the HOA fees, if they've gone up, and look at the potential for those fees to go up. So in Sawmill Creek, they don't have a gigantic amenity center. There's a pool and a pavilion. There's very little there that can break and require more money from the HOA to repair. You know, it's a pool pump every now and again, or it's new outdoor furniture for the pavilion, but it's not going to be $40,000 worth of air conditioning units for the clubhouse or resurfacing tennis courts. So those are important factors because those things can make your HOA fees go up at the drop of a hat.
Are CDD costs disclosed?
They should be. They absolutely should be by the sales agent. We are well aware that those costs are in place, and that's where having a good real estate professional, if you're a buyer and you're looking into a community and the sales agent has not mentioned or discussed a CDD, your buyer's agent, your representative should be asking those questions for you. That's huge because there have been folks that when they get to the financing side, or even worst case scenario, down to the closing table, and they're estimating their taxes, and they're banking on, you know, $6,000 or $7,000 a year in tax, and their tax bill is $2,000 to $3,000 higher than what they thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. Oh, that's that CDD that they work into your property taxes. It's added on again as a non-ad valorem tax. Well, wait a minute, nobody ever talked to me about this. That's a travesty. It should be discussed up front. One of the first things when people are shopping in a community is HOA CDD, if it has one. That way they know coming in, it's best for all parties involved. It's good for me as a sales agent because if I'm discussing HOA and CDD and folks are not on board with having that extra cost, I'm not wasting half of my day showing them property that they're going to wind up having no interest in buying because of the associated costs of living in that community. And it works out good for them because there's no surprises.
One final question I had for you before we go, and it's really important, is insurances.
Yeah.
Now, insurances, they have different prices based on whether you're cinder block or wood frame because of maintenance, because of wind mitigation and so forth. Can you go ahead and talk about that, how Adams works with that, and what kind of insurance differences you might see with that and why?
Yeah, actually, we're fortunate enough that most of the insurance companies will insure our homes like they would a block home because of the structural integrity of the brick. So we don't typically find folks paying more, even though we are a wood frame builder. We don't find them paying more for our stuff because of that brick. It makes a huge difference.
So is that like a 2-inch brick, or how big is that brick?
Standard size brick. You can pick them up at Home Depot.
Okay, so just that little bit of brick on the exterior, It helps with the wind mitigation that lowers it.
And it is largely because it is real brick, goes on brick by brick with mortar. It's not just a sheet of decorative brick that they stick up in one big piece. You know, there's actual skilled labor going on. I love watching the guys brick the homes. It's fascinating.
You know, and one more geeky little point is that I was actually noticing that, and you mentioned it earlier on, trusses. Those trusses, you guys are designing the roof not for snow load, obviously, because you don't have any snow down here. You're designing it for wind load. Mm-hmm. And you have those hurricane straps that are tying in the roof along the perimeter. Now, I thought I saw lintels, like a concrete lintel going all around the perimeter. Did I imagine that, or is that actually something that's going into construction?
So the biggest change that we have done, and this is not on all of our builds, we actually caught a lot of heat from the owner of the company because our production manager decided to take a chance on this, is a system called Quick Tie. So when they pour the foundation, they get the framework up. This quick tie people come in, they drill into the foundation, fill it with the hole with some sort of magic epoxy. I'm not sure the witchcraft that goes behind it. And they will put a threaded rod in it.
That's what I saw.
So
in a concrete chase.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
So what they'll do is they will take, it's about a 1/2-inch braided steel cable, gets threaded onto that bar that's now anchored in the foundation, run it up through the top of the framework and through the bottom of the roof truss, and a nut and washer on the top. They tighten everything down, put it under a load, and it is beneficial for a couple of different reasons. Number one, structural integrity, far superior to just using plates and screws or nails to hold a truss to the frame.
Are they doing that every truss or just like every third truss?
It's about every 5 or 6 feet. I'm not sure what the exact measurements are, but it is staggered. But it also, it helps us a bunch on the warranty side because as the house settles, because it's under a load, everything is settling together.
Settling evenly.
Correct.
So you're not getting those slab cracks.
No stress cracks, no little cracks at the joint between your ceiling and your interior walls. It's proven to be a really, really effective system.
One more thing, those trusses, forget about attic storage because if you can't put weight on that up. If you're using that system, that allows those trusses to flex. If you're like in the Midwest, I would always throw Christmas trees and everything up in the attic. You can't do that with that system because it'll void the warranty. Am I correct on that?
That I don't know. I'm not sure the warranty information on it. I haven't heard anything to that effect. So that I don't know.
We'll leave it to the viewers to research that one.
Yeah.
Derek, we enjoyed having you on, and we just want to give you a few moments to go ahead and do your final comments. Anything else you would like to share with us? Or
Sure. Yeah. So, to kind of take advantage of the TRE podcast fame that I'm sure to garner, I will throw out there anybody that comes into Adams and buys a home through me and they mention TRE Podcast, the Ripple Effect Podcast, I'll supply you with a garage door opener as a housewarming gift. So hopefully that'll get you guys some exposure. It'll bring the hordes of people into my model looking for their free garage door opener.
How many homes do you need to sell to give us a garage door opener? The 3 guys sitting here. At least 2?
Well, if you each buy a home from me, that would be 3 garage door openers.
Right.
And I can be reached, again, my name is Derek Brockdorff. I can be reached at 240-603-9296. And you can hit me on my email is derek.brockdorff@adamshomes.com.
all right, I'd like you to thank you for joining us for this episode. Once again, we covered the side of builders in the general area of Palm Coast and throughout the country. We were talking specifically about frame homes, the differences between them and concrete homes, how that deals with insurance, and how builders have new homes have a kind of an advantage to existing homes. So you get a lot of benefits by going with these new builders, warranties. You don't have to worry about maintenance costs so much. You don't have to replace a lot of new things. You get to see the building quality put together as it's being built. And a lot of times you can even get a better interest rate. So there's a lot of benefits that you want to look into and see if it's beneficial for you. And we thank you again for joining us. We hope that you watch more of our episodes and that you enjoyed this one. If you did, please like and subscribe and comment so that we can go ahead and work towards future episodes that you enjoy as well. Thank you so much.